I've been listening to the new album in its entirety the last few days, and I must say, as someone who views not only the band's music as some of my favorite, but also the legacy of the band, you knocked it out of the park.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. The interview's got to be done now, right? What else do we...
Well, I will tell you, your patience paid off.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. It's really nice to hear. Thank you.
Your patience paid off in finding Jeff.
Oh, my gosh. It was a long road, man. It was a couple of years, and I feel it did as well. Oddly enough, Jeff was like the last guy to come into this.
Yeah.
During the whole audition process. And, Jeff didn't even submit in that big online thing we did.
Well, it's got to be one of those things where it's trying to find that perfect balance between playing the hits but also staying true to the evolution of your creative urges.
Well said. Well said.
I mean, is that a hard balance to find? I mean, it's one of those things where you have so many hits that I would surmise at the same time you never want to be labeled a nostalgia act.
No, and that was a very concerted effort on behalf of Robert, Eric, and myself. We wanted somebody that we were able to write with and make more records and more music, and we there's a lot to live up to there on those past records. To be able to write music with Scott was magic, man. He was extraordinary. So there was a lot to live up to, not only for Jeff, but for all of us collectively.
Well, I also think, too, from my perspective of a longtime fan, I don't think if it was half-assed, I don't think you'd be doing this.
We wouldn't have. Robert was out with the Hollywood Vampires, and the search was well over. We had really exhausted ourselves in that search. I personally went through it about 3 times, well over 20,000 submissions. I probably locked in about 100 hours behind my computer. And I think we were about just ready to call it, and just, maybe not publicly, but we were just like, okay, well, this is where it's at. And it was when Robert played in Detroit with the Hollywood Vampires, and somebody approached him after the show and said, you should check out this local cat. His name's Jeff Goot. And Robert did, and he called me the next morning, and, we were in a room with Jeff just a few weeks later in L.A.
Well, it's with the song, The Art of Letting Go, tell me a little bit about the meaning of that song to you and how it applies to where SDP is today.
I'm going to just tell you about the writing process of it. That song was really the song that solidified us as being a band. It was that song. And that song really wrote itself. And I say this with no jive and ethereal stuff. It's just one of those things where that song wrote itself. We were at Eric's house. We're at his studio working on some other material. We were doing kind of a pre-production thing to start recording the record. And there was a little guitar there. It was a little Yamaha, like a little travel guitar almost, like a little toy guitar. And I picked it up, and it went in tune pretty well. And I literally just started playing those chords, and that song came together in a matter of minutes. And Jeff heard what I was doing, came in from the other room, and I think he actually used the words, The Art of Letting Go. And it was very evident that Jeff had a great sense of song. And I say that because it was really him that, really arranged that song to fit what he was doing melodically and, vocally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as you were saying, sorry.
It was that song that really brought us together.
Well, with the 1-2 punch of Scott and Chester passing untimely on both sides, what kind of clarity in the grand scheme of things have you found in the last couple of years?
Pertaining to that.
Yeah, I guess maybe this being the third incarnation of the band, and
I have no clarity on any of that. I'm on a daily basis scratching my head over those two gentlemen. I think of those guys every day, and there's things that I remember from each one of them that are like the fondest, dearest, sweetest memories in my heart. And then there's, shortly thereafter, like I said, I'm scratching my head and really sad. And yeah.
Do you think you'll ever make peace with it?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a big loss, I was very intimate with both of those guys, and I hope people can realize what I mean by that. I'm talking, when you get in a room with somebody and you're sharing music,
yeah,
and you're really allowing yourself to be so vulnerable. Because look, man, there's plenty of times I come in with a song, and I think it's like, oh wow, this is like the best thing I've done so far. And somebody could say like, I'm not feeling that. And you're like, oh man. And you kind of have to rise to the occasion and move on.
Yeah.
And respect that. So you're very vulnerable, and it's a very intimate situation when you're sharing and writing music together. It is for us anyway. So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get over that, man. I don't know, because there were two great losses in my life, and I know for many, 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 many others as well.
Yeah, I actually, not to sound depressing or anything, but I actually was the last music journalist to interview Scott before he died. And that was pretty tough, as you can imagine, especially from my perspective as a journalist who's covered your band for a long time. But on a positive note, at you're 56 now, and I'm wondering what has surprised you most about finding success still in this haphazard industry, and also about getting older as a rock star.
Well, can we just be really clear about something?
Yeah.
That term, rock star.
I hate that term, so I apologize in advance.
I fucking hate that term. I fucking hate it.
Well, I wanted to say rock and roller, but that sounded cheesy.
You know
what? I guess
because
musician.
I've seen people take advantage of that connotation.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't sit right with me, man.
Well,
and,
I guess I'll rephrase it.
I don't like the term. I feel very, very fortunate. Look, man, I'm extremely grateful that I have the opportunity to make music, and I get to do it with my brother, and with a guy like Eric Kretz, who's just a beautiful individual, and I'm just very grateful, and heck, man, I'm just starting to get good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's like I was interviewing the Drive-By Truckers, if you're familiar with them, and they're in their early 50s, and I said, what's surprising you the most? And it's like, well, I'm actually starting to get good at guitar after 25 years.
Yeah. I know somebody who just went and saw them a few weeks ago, said they were great.
Oh, they're fantastic.